Good.
Oh. All righty. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Mullenax, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. I want to welcome everyone who's joining us here in person tonight at the Martinsburg Public Library, and those of you who are joining us online via Microsoft Teams for the first of 3 public meetings on our draft regional bicycle and pedestrian plan. So we're in Martinsburg this evening. Next week on June 5th, we'll be in Hagerstown, and then a week from tonight, June 8th, we will be in Hagerstown. So just a little bit on the format of the meeting. We have a formal presentation that we're going to go through. Following the presentation, we'll have time for comments and questions. This meeting runs from 5 to 6 p.m. and is being recorded. And at some point in the next couple of weeks, one of the meetings we're recording will be posted on the MPO's YouTube channel, whichever one has the best recording. We're sharing the same information at all 3 public meetings. So with that in mind, I'm going to have the MPO staff and our consultants who worked on the project introduce themselves, and we'll go ahead and get started with the meeting agenda. So if I could have
Michaela, take it away.
Yeah.
I'm Michaela McDonough. I am the transportation planner with the NPO. Hi, everybody.
And I am Jim Frazier. I'm the project manager of the project team. Our project team consists of Michael Baker and Fears and Peers out of Washington, D.C. We also have part of the team online. Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah, and I'm Bree Ferreira. I'm attending virtually right now. And I am a transportation planner with Michael Baker.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. So for the agenda for tonight's meeting, we're going to talk a little bit about the background of the MPO, just to set the stage real quick for those who may not be familiar with who we are. We're going to talk about the existing conditions as it relates to bicycle and pedestrians in our region. We'll talk about the outreach and coordination we've done so far for this effort, the demand and safety analysis that's been performed, the action plan that lays out the draft recommendations and project ideas we've identified, and we will close out with possible funding opportunities for some of those potential projects. Okay. So the background, the MPO, we are a federally designated and funded regional transportation agency. We're one of about 400 MPOs across the country. An MPO is created wherever the U.S. Census designates an urbanized area of more than 50,000 persons. And so we are the MPO that's established for Berkeley and Jefferson counties, West Virginia, and Washington County in Maryland. We have a governing body or a policy board that's known as the Interstate Council that's made up of elected officials and highway officials. We have a technical advisory committee that advises the Interstate Council. We have an ad hoc air quality advisory committee for conformity issues, and then we have the MPO staff who you've already met. And so our overarching purpose is we want to provide a cooperative forum for regional collaboration, planning, and public decision-making for short and long-term transportation solutions. And so that's what you see just to the right is our map of our urban area as designated by the census and the 3-county region that we do planning in. You might notice that our urban area extends slightly north into Franklin County, Pennsylvania, and slightly south into Frederick County, Virginia. But those respective areas have their own MPOs, and so we have planning agreements with them. So everything's copacetic. So the plan to introduce you all to it and the objectives is that we are looking as part of this draft regional bicycle and pedestrian plan to provide guidance and planning for enhanced bike and head mobility at a regional level. We're trying to fill critical gaps. We want to improve safety, especially at intersection and crossing locations, and we want to support shared use facilities and recommend strategies throughout the area. We want to build on previous work done by our federal, state, and local, as well as our regional partners, and where possible, take advantage of all the new federal initiatives and funding opportunities through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is the new federal surface transportation bill. And to help us achieve these aims, we had a stakeholder advisory committee that helped guide us through the process of developing this plan. So we had staff from the MPO, we had folks from federal highway, we had state DOTs, we had local governments, city and county, as well as regional. We had private entities, we had bike shop owners, we had public entities such as W Medicine. We had nonprofit organizations such as Investor Hope in Hagerstown, and we had cycling clubs such as the Pedaling Panhandlers Cycling. So at the highest level, our plan goals are we want to leverage economic benefits and improve development for bicycle and pedestrian activity. We're looking to make sure that we are preserving our existing system through analysis and planning. We want to expand and enhance the bike ped network in our area. Safety is always at the forefront of everything we do. It's in our MPO's DNA. And then we want to promote biking and walking as a healthy alternative to vehicular travel. And so with that, I'm going to turn over to Jim Frazier to go over existing conditions of bicycle and pedestrian facilities.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, first we'll talk about the existing conditions, basically where we are. Like Matt said, this is not the first step in developing a regional bike plan. The last one was conducted in 2016 timeframe, so it's well due for an update. One of the things as part of this plan was an pretty intensive data collection efforts, and we have a link to this data set. So as your mind wanders or wants to understand where the information is coming from and what's existing and what's being planned, and you have access to this link. There's obviously the link here to the presentation. There's also a story map, which is kind of an executive summary of the plan, and the plan itself all have these links embedded in them on HEP's MPO's website. Okay, first starting out with the existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the region. The one on the left are the bike facilities, whether that's bike lanes, off-street share use paths, or dedicated bike lanes, as well as the US bike routes. There's a particular bike route 11 and bike route US bike route 50. On the right side is the sidewalk network through Martinsburg and through Hagerstown. In the rural areas, it's not as prevalent, obviously, as the urban areas. So, and we will we will evaluate this as we go through the process here. Next is more of the pedestrian facilities and existing trails. There's the US, for the trails at US bicycle routes 50 and 11. There's also obviously the C&O Canal towpath, which runs along the Potomac River. There's the Western Maryland Rail Trail and the Appalachian Trail. Obviously a pedestrian trail, but runs through the region. And for the area urban infrastructure, what we're looking for is sidewalks, crosswalks, curb ramps, and crossing signals that are existing at this point. All right. Next, we're going to go into the safety and analyze the actual incidents and crashes that have occurred that affected a bicyclist or a pedestrian. First, this is the targets, performance measure targets, and these are from 2017 to 2021. The goal is to get. Well, there's two. I mean, let me backtrack a little bit here. West Virginia DOT establishes the planning targets for the MPO. Same with Maryland DOT has targets identified for the MPO. Now, these targets are 5-year averages. So, for example, the latest one occurred that we evaluated was 2021. And in Berkeley and Jefferson County, the target was 8.6 incidents, and as a result, there was 13.4. So the target was not met. Same in the Maryland side, you had a 13.4 target, and there were 14 incidents. So that target was not met either. Okay, for fatal and severe injuries, these are a summary of the transportation crashes between 2017 and 2021, 5 years, 5 years of data was a total of 642 total crashes. 497 of those were pedestrian involved, 145 were bicycle accidents. In addition, we did get some data for 2022 in Hagerstown, which is, it's a limited data, but in 2022 alone, there were 25 incidents in the city of Hagerstown. As far as fatal or severe injury crashes, there were 114 total, 99 pedestrian, and 15 involving a bicycle. And you can see the dots throughout the map there of the locations. You can see most of them are in the urban areas. Okay, next we're going to go through the outreach, the public outreach we have in the survey we conducted and the results of that survey. This was one of, we've been, with the MPO, we've conducted a number of MetroQuest surveys. The latest before this one was for the Long Range Transportation Plan. But this was probably the best, we received the most participants for any survey that we ever done. A total of 485 total applicants conducted the survey. Of those, 50-50 between male and female. The majority of the applicants were older than 45 years old, and most of the participants were white. Only 5% were another race or ethnicity. And here's some of the results. First question is, what prevents you from walking? 65% of the participants walk for exercise or recreation. 21% can walk for errands. The main takeaway from this is nearly half of the participants avoid walking due to the lack of sidewalks or sidewalk conditions. Traffic was the next highest preventer. We asked the same question for bicycling. What prevents you from biking? 79% of the participants own a bike. 43% of the participants bike 1 to 5 miles, and 41% bike greater than 5 miles on a one-way trip. 68% bike for exercise or recreation, and the main takeaway is 62% don't bike due to safety concerns, traffic, and poor bike conditions. Okay, next question was, which bike lanes do you feel most comfortable using? 64% of the participants feel most comfortable in a bike lane, either separated by a physical barrier or a marking. 25% preferred a shared use path away from cars. 68% want to see additional trails as well as improved connectivity and pavement conditions for bikers. And 56% improved safety, additional sidewalks, and improved pavement conditions for walkers. The next question was, how effective was education messaging on driver and bike safety that has been communicated to you? And this was across the board. Less than 15% thought the educational messaging or either bike or pedestrian safety was communicated effectively. That could be through, social media, newspaper, radio. So that was a pretty high response, that how ineffective the current communication was. All right, the next part of the survey we asked, we call map markers, where participants were able to identify locations of concern, whether it's a walking destination, a safety concern, a biking destination, or an improvement idea. And you can see that the bar chart shows the number of total markers, and of those markers, more than half provided additional comments as well. The majority of the safety concerns were marked as a bike and walking concern. Most concerns were lack of bike lane or markings, narrow shoulder, dangerous intersections and speeds. And the top improvements or ideas was sidewalks, bike lane markings, other and crosswalks. And the last question we asked was, if you have this pot of money, what would you spend it on? And what would be your priority in spending? And basically a split between the top three: construction of new trails and multi-use paths, maintenance of existing sidewalks, trails, and multi-use paths, and new or improved markings, shoulders, bike lanes, shoulders, and amenities were the top three. And the next, what not too far behind, was improvements to intersections, road crossings, and signals and timing. And only about another option was, programs for more education and safety training. And that was only 810. So. Okay. The next part of the study was to go and actually conduct a demand and safety analysis. And why, just for the overall purpose of the analysis, is to identify areas of potential projects and then prioritize those areas in the need of safety improvements, identify the right size projects to meet the demand, and identify locations for both safety concerns and high demand. Our approach was to utilize the data from the survey, all the public comments, and then there's a note there that we did prioritize roadways with multiple comments were prioritized as part of this analysis. We looked at safety concern areas where the accidents were, especially the fatal or severe injury accidents. What are the demand areas? We were able to acquire data that identified areas where bike destinations and walking destinations occur. We also looked at areas without public comments and then came up with a project idea list. All right, the demand analysis was split between three data sources: the Active Transportation Index, the Strava log and Strava origin and destination data. That was the data we were able to purchase. That is, Strava was able to collect the data from people using their cell phones and stuff as they bike to identify where they're going and the destinations and the origins from where they started. And then we have the comments from the MetroQuest survey for walk and bike destination pin drops. And so that data is collected, it's normalized, all values through the parameters. And then we use the Strava hex bins to determine the areas where they occur and which ones score better. And the final scores are then categorized into tiers, with 1 equals the highest demand and 4 is the lowest demands. And this process was completed for both bike demand and walk demand scores. The results of this is included in the study. Don't have the actual results here, but you can look at that, and on the map itself, the data map that we provided. A similar type process for safety. We collected each variable, crash pins, dropped pins from the survey, normalized all those valuables for the parameters, and then each variable was put into a hex bin and multiplied and assigned a weight against it and added together. Final scores were categorized into tiers. 1 equals the highest demand and 3 was the lowest demand. And the process was completed for both bike and walking. And that leads into our action plan. Here's our approach of how we developed our recommendations. First, we took the results of the demand and safety analysis. We added in the public input, especially the project safety improvement ideas. We've also compared to the existing planned projects in the region, the TIP and LRTP projects. And then we go and develop the draft recommendation set for each county. And then we shared that with our stakeholder group and we received their input to develop the final recommendations. As part of these recommendations is to give you an idea, we have what we call a strategy toolbox. There's a lot of sources for this. They're actually very incumbent of multiple ideas. And this is just a sample of those, whether or not, multi-use share paths, some complete street ideas, curb extensions, curb ramps. So there's any type of strategy would be part of this data source. And then some of the guidelines that we used. The main one here is the federal guidelines are called safe system approach. It's not just looking at the crashes itself, but try to evaluate to the cause of the crash, like safe road users is the, who was at fault, the driver or the pedestrian, the bicyclist, what are the vehicles involved? Are they, equipped safety wise to be on the road? Speed is a major factor. What about the roads itself? Is there shoulders? Is there room for safe pedestrian and walking? And then what happened after the crash? I also want to identify too, there is some guidelines from the states and the local jurisdictions here that have some guidelines into some road designs. One is the MDOT Context Driven Guide, the Hagerstown Living Streets Design Guidelines, and Charlestown Sidewalk Improvement Program. All right, this is the map of the action plan. I got a detailed list of it, so we'll focus on the Berkeley County recommendations. For Berkeley County, there's 7 recommendations, and these are, like I said, outside what the existing planned projects or improvements that are already been identified. So B1 is like West King Street is to improve pedestrian safety and access between Kennedy Avenue and Raleigh Street. North Tennessee Avenue is to connect the sidewalks to the War Memorial Park to the Berkeley Medical Center. And the third one is the Creekside Trail. Is the trail connectivity between Frog Hollow Trail and Oakdale Park. And Lake Thomas Master Plan Trails, the trail connecting Oakdale Park and the War Memorial Park. Winchester Avenue is to improve pedestrian crossing opportunities between King Street and Apple Harvest Road. West King Street, fill the sidewalk gaps and improve pedestrian comfort between Foxcroft and South Louisiana Avenue, and then fill sidewalk gaps between sidewalks on both sides of the street and crosswalks at all intersection approaches, and then widen the shoulders for biking. The last one is Route 9 for Edwin Miller Boulevard, is to add a separated bike facility between Martinsburg and Hedgesville, and improve pedestrian safety and access between Warm Springs Avenue and Eclipse Court. We also came up with a planning level cost estimate. Obviously, that is when we say planning level, that means it's a ballpark. It could fluctuate significantly between, as the longer the project is actually designed and costed or scheduled to be implemented. So, but that is a good start of what the approximate cost would be.
There may be costs associated with relocating utilities and, right away, things like that are hard to factor in until you start engineering.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. We do have Jefferson County, which I won't go into since we're in the Washington County ones. The last section here is just some of the funding opportunities. And this diagram, this is all from the BIL, the bipartisan infrastructure law. And the main thing to take away from this is the number of programs that relate to pedestrian and bicyclist safety improvements. You even got carbon reduction type of programs that improve the air by eliminating car trips. So there's a lot of opportunities and grant programs that have become available over the last 2 years, and to take advantage of those is a priority for the counties and for the MPO, as well as the states administering these programs. Just to identify some of the programs administered by the states, on the left is the Maryland programs, and on the right is the West Virginia program. So a lot of similarities, but they're just, like I said, administered by the different states, and they are proving effective. And as you can obviously see in the area of some of the improvements that have been implemented to date already. All right, that concludes this. Is our contact information. We'll now address any questions or comments. And also there's a link there to the actual plan, the full plan itself, which is on the MPO's website.
Yeah, I would share with the audience that you saw on the screen before the mention of a TAP grant. For those who are in Berkeley County are familiar with Martinsburg, the work that happened on the sidewalks that improved along in Martinsburg along Martin Street between Queen Street and the train station, like in front of the Apollo. That was a TAP grant the city of Martinsburg had. And while we are here showing a lot of federal and state funding opportunities for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, municipalities such as Martinsburg have taken upon themselves to fund the Frog Hollow Trail that runs from the train station south to Berkeley Heights Elementary. They've also done a number of sidewalk improvements in and around town, especially near Rosemont Elementary. So while that is not a grant program, there are ways, additional ways to fund these type of improvements that we're seeing in our communities.
Very good.
So then, I guess at this time, if you wouldn't mind, jump back to the last slide, Jim. I'll open up for any questions or comments. Well, I will say I thank everyone for their attention. I will just say that the public comment period on this draft plan remains open through June 18th. So tonight's meeting presentation, the draft plan that you see there, as well as the story maps. There are links to all those on our website, which is herby.mmullenax.net. If you have a comment, feel free. There's my contact information. You can send me an email, give me a call. You can contact us through the website. There is a contact page that's there. And we thank you for your time. So the next steps are, once we come on the other side of June 18th, we will do our best to address all public comments received, work them into our draft plan, and then the plan will be finalized by the end of June. We'll have the final version up on our website, and then we'll start to work with our local, regional, state, and federal partners to get some of these projects implemented. So if there's nothing else, I'll thank everyone again for their time and wish everyone a good evening. So,
Thank you, Matt.
thank you, Jim.
You stop.